Hello, good morning from St. Louis, Missouri, and welcome to the Thoughtfully Made Fiber Podcast. My name is Amy Sher, and I am a knitting pattern designer and pretty amateur sewist and spinner and beginning weaver here in St. Louis, Missouri. Coming at you on Halloween, October 31st, 2022. It's wonderful here. We just passed the peak fall color season, and I'll drop a few pics over here when I edit, but it's been wonderful. Even though I've been terribly sick from various cold viruses for about a month now, we still got to enjoy kind of the end of peak fall season. I had hoped to enjoy it in the outdoors a little bit more, but that was not the case this year. But hopefully next year I'll be able to get outside during the fall more. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about my newish collection, the Coming Home collection inspired by Anne of Green Gables, which I released on October 6th. And to give you some previews on my next pattern. So we're gonna get into it directly, I think. So I am currently wearing the kind of the big garment of the collection, the Anne's puffed sleeve sweater. This is a sweater knit in Reknit's DK, Oh My DK base, which is like a really bouncy kind of heavy DK, light worsted, fine merino wool. So really crimpy, really bouncy, and it has wonderful structure, which holds up the little pleated detail. Here, I'm gonna come up so I can show you. So it features kind of a fitted look through the yoke here. And in the body, there's a little bit of ease, but not too much. And then the big dramatic shoulders kind of contrast with the minimal bodice torso situation. I've talked about this pattern before last time, so I'm not gonna go on and on about it. But if you'd like to purchase it, the links for everything I talk about today will be down below. Sharon at Reknits has kits for this pattern, and it's all gonna be in the description box for you. By the way, all my videos are also fully closed captioned. I've actually recently brought on a friend to help me caption because I have auditory processing issues. So after editing, by the time I get to the captioning, I can't understand what I'm saying. It's really hard for me to understand spoken language. unless I'm sitting with a person and I get more feedback than just the sound. And then by the time I get to captioning, I don't want to look at my face anymore. So it's a struggle. So I'm very happy to say that I brought on someone to do the captioning for me, and she's her name is Infinity, and she's fantastic. So that's there for you. Just click on the little closed captioning button over here if you haven't already. It's there for you. I want to make sure that my vlog is an accessible and easy to use space for you. So if there's anything I can do to improve the captioning or everything that I do, just let me know. On that topic, all my patterns are also available on Payhip, as well as Ravelry, just so you have an alternate place to purchase it if you would like to. So I want to talk a little bit about the other patterns in my collection. So let me pull them out for you. Let's talk about Marilla's mittens. These little mittens. I found this stitch pattern in a Japanese stitch pattern book and thought that they looked so much like plums. And as we all know, Marilla of the novels and Green Gables makes beautiful plum pudding. So this is inspired by her plum pudding, the plum trees on the property of Green Gables. I'm inferring that there's plum trees. I don't know that there's plum trees. I couldn't find evidence of it in the novels, but if they're making plum pudding as a regular thing, I assume there's some plum trees in the vicinity. So there's the plum trees, and then the pattern has 3 different views. It has like a plain mitten view where the palm side is just knit straight, and I'm actually making that right now and I'll show it in a minute. But this one is the convertible view. There's like a little welt pocket. So the reason I designed this pattern is actually because I really wanted convertible mittens that the top of the hand pattern didn't get broken up by the rib that typically is under here for a convertible mitten. I wanted it to be still a smooth stitch pattern all the way up, so I designed it with a welt pocket instead of like a flap that covers rib. So you can still take out your hand and use your fingers easily, and the back is just like this flappy, and then you can put it back on. Keep warm. So that is the convertible view. Let me actually run upstairs and grab my other one. Okay, here we are. So I'm currently knitting a pair of these for my daughter Kaylee. So here's the first mitten that I finished. This is actually the first one I knit because I wanted to nail like the plain version before I added the convertible welt pocket to it. So actually this is the first sample I knit up. I did have to shorten it. It used to be longer and I did shorten it a little for her, I think. This one is in size youth. Kaylee is 6.5 almost. So I'm knitting this one. On her it has like this much headroom after shortening, and I'm just hoping she'll grow into it. So the circumference of it, I would say, can comfortably fit 6 and above. And then the length of it, you can shorten and lengthen to whatever you need to. So that's kind of the first one, and I've got my progress on the second one. I'm so close. I'm like ready to work the chart on the second one for the decrease. So there's like this little bobble-a situation that you work along with the mitten gusset for the thumb, and then you separate for the main mitten. You knit all the way up to the decreases. You work some decreases at the same time as the chart. In the pattern, it's just written out in the chart for you. The decreases are in the pattern. And then you work the thumb. I also had my sample knitter work up a fingerless version here. Roxanne is one of my sample knitters for transitional seasons. And actually I've been thinking I might need a pair for myself in convertible. It really clashes with my sweater. The color really does clash so bad with my sweater. That's okay. So that is kind of that. And then the third and last pattern of the collection is this one, the Queen Anne socks. So they are two different but symmetrical socks with a small lace panel that runs up the outside of the foot. So like if this is the foot, this is the outside of it. It's constructed bottom up, so I wanted to keep things kind of interesting. I thought about doing like a super historically correct version of it, where it's top down with a traditional heel turn, worked the way that they would have during World War I. But since Rilla, in that novel, in Rilla of Ingleside, which is the World War I novel of the series, Rilla talks about how much she hates turning the heels. Like for her first few socks knit for the war effort for the Red Cross, she didn't even do the heel turn. She just gave it to Susan, their housekeeper, to do, and then she would take it back to continue knitting back in the round for the foot. And then she finally, like the story goes, that she finally like decided that she can't depend on Susan for everything, and she learns how to turn a heel. And I love that story because it's a great look into the author's, time period. Lucy Maud Montgomery grew up in that time. She was an adult during the war, and it really shows that sentiment of like the age-old people hating to turn a heel story. So I went with something simpler, and to me simpler, in honor of Rilla. It is a Fleegle heel, which looks like this. It's a Fleegle heel worked bottom up so that you don't have to do any pickups for that heel. It still has kind of like a faux heel flap looking structure, but it's mainly worked using increases and just short rows, and it fits me really, really well. I'm really surprised by how well it fit me. It's actually my first Fleegle heel construction design, and I don't think I've even tried Fleegle heel, so I was just playing with it, and it turned out so wonderfully that I designed something from it, and I really like it. I like it so much I actually started knitting another one, and it's back there, so let me grab it for you real quick. Oh, and here's the finished object. Oh my goodness. Alright, so here's my bag, my yellow bag. I don't think I've shown this bag before. I'm very distracted, but I'm going to show my little things here. You can see that there's a rice cooker, a cute little anthropomorphic rice cooker and paddle. There's a shave them to save them pin, which I've not done my shave them to save them like at all. And there's a thing that says I like to knit. I feel like knit. Anyway, this is holding my sock yarn. So here is my second Queen Anne socks. I knit it from Bien Aimee. This is the Ponyo colorway from her Miyazaki collection. I forgot what it's called. The Miyazaki collection by Bien Aimee. She has dyed up this beautiful, I think this is called The House on the Ocean or something like that. I don't know if you know that movie, but I have like vivid memories of watching it with my kid Kaylee. And then we ate ramen with ham and egg on it, which is the dish that they cook in it. And it's obviously like one of those really nostalgic meals that people make all the time. And somehow Miyazaki has like the power to turn it into like this something beautiful and iconic in a movie. So anyway, I have very fond memories of this film, and I adore this colorway. Focus for me, please. Thank you. I love the little green speckles and blue speckles that kind of glitter throughout the pink. So that's my first sock. I started it while my youngest was in the hospital. That was a month ago now. That's why I missed I know in my last vlog I said that I would film one at the start of October, and I didn't, and that is the reason why. My youngest was in the hospital for a case of Guillain-Barré, which I cannot pronounce, but yeah, she's doing very well. She's recovering just fine, running around, just a little bit less balance than her usual self, but she'll make a full recovery. And I know quite a few of you follow me on Instagram and have been sending me lovely and encouraging messages about it while we were in the hospital, and then again while I was out sick with colds, multiple colds. So thank you all for the kind messages. I really appreciate it. It took me all month, but I have finally found off one sock, single sock. So not much to say about it because I knit it exactly the same way as my other sample, which was knit from Rowan Lane Fibers. I believe Leia has some of this yarn, this non-superwash BFL yarn that's really, it's a BFL Shetland blend. And it's really, really sticky and woolly, and I think I need to explore. I think I said in a previous episode that I love to explore non-superwash yarns for socks. So I think this is a great candidate if you're looking for a pattern to try out non-superwash. Oh, focus please. Oh, there we go. If you're looking to try out non-superwash socks, this is a great pattern and yarn combo to try. And then I wanted to also knit it up in the more commonly used superwash sock yarn so you can see how it works up. So far, it works up similarly. For my personal socks, I do sometimes decide to play with the gauge to have more freedom with the gauge than I normally do for my designs. So that's what I've done here. I would say about 50% of my personal socks are knit on size US 1.5 or about like 2.5 millimeters, something like that. And then the other half are knit on the smallest needle, US 0 or 0.5. I think they're like 2 millimeter needles. They're really small. They create a really fine fabric. And that is what I have decided to do here. It's been a while since I knit socks on super tiny needles, but I think I'd like to do it more. I think the thing about designing socks is that every knitter has their own sock preferences and their favorite needle types, their favorite needle size, and then the cast on number that works the best for them. So I don't see my role as a sock designer to like tell you what to knit basically, or tell you how many stitches to cast on for your size, because I really believe that if you've knit a few pairs of socks, then you know how to do that. You just adapt your stitch count to my pattern to make it work. So this is a 64 stitch pattern, or sorry, this is the same pattern on 64 stitches on smaller needles, and then the same kind of the same situation but on larger needles and size, the smallest size, 56 stitch, and they block out to exactly the same for me. I did work a few extra repeats of the pattern to get to the same size. So I'm excited to wear that this fall. We're finally in fall, like, can't get out of bed without wool sock season, which in my opinion is the best season. So I hope that wherever you are, you get to enjoy some wooliness. So that's my collection. I forgot to mention that the yarn support for the mittens, the beautiful mittens, both the mittens and the socks are natural dyed, and they are stunning yarns. The mittens are a BFL and Machan base. They are by the incredible Woolen Twine, who dyed up these gorgeous plummy colors. This one's called Plum, and this one's called Lavender. And they're both just so saturated and beautiful. This one has like a real grayish like tone to it, kind of like a warm lavender. And then this one is like pure plum, just so delicious. I particularly love this color, but I requested this one also, just because I wanted to be able to show the bobble patterning on both dark and light yarn. So that worked out really well. I think Yule has some of these yarns in her shop. She had an update planned for this week. I've been too sick to coordinate for it until the end of last week. I started feeling better. But I will link all of that information down below, as well as her vlog about this update. I will also link that below. I think that's it about this pattern. So everything about this pattern is available and ready for you if you would like to knit along. Personally, I'm still knitting my third pair of these mittens using leftover yarn, because these use up less than half a 100 gram skein, I think, in the smaller sizes, the 2 smaller sizes that I've knit. Yeah, I've knit 2 of them. And there's enough to make 2 pairs if you're careful about your yarn planning. So I will have enough to make 2 pairs out of one 100 gram skein. This one, 2 full length ones too. Okay. So let's move on a little bit. Let's have a little interlude with handspun yarn. I think I started spinning this before, so you would have seen it on my last episode. This is Nest Fibers Organic Polworth in the colorway Meadow. And I spun it up in September and October and finished it up in October. I think this is like one of those projects where I started spinning just to spin. I roughly split it down the middle, the long braid down the middle, so that I could get the gradient. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. It came out kind of DK-ish, so maybe I'll make a pair of plain mittens for my Marilla's mittens patterns, or even write up the plain version without the chart using this yarn. So those who don't like to fuss with the bobble inlays pattern can still enjoy this pattern. This one spun up to be, and I counted it, I rewound it on, like, for once I counted my yarn properly. I wound it after washing. So for those who don't know, when you dye fiber and then you spin it, it stretches out, and then when you wind it up into like a 2-yard skein, which this is, and then you wash it and finish it, it shrinks. It's really exciting because, like, while it's wet, you can go and look at the skein hanging, or sorry, the hank hanging on your hook or whatever, and it'll be super long. And then by the time it dries, it's like, it really shrinks up. So to get accurate yardage, you either have to measure the knee circumference of the hank, or you can rewind it for a neater and probably slightly more accurate measurement. And I never do that, never. I'm quite lazy about measuring yardage, but this time I did. Something about my kid having been sick and then me being sick, I just wanted to do like slow, soothing things, take things the slow way and take my time with things and not rush into things. Just really trying to take my time. Excuse me, has my lingering cough. Just really taking my time. I wouldn't say to do things the right way, because I don't really believe there is a right way to do this, but maybe taking my time to enjoy the process of this yarn a little bit extra, like a little extra time with this yarn. So I did measure it. It came out to just about like exactly 300 yards. So plenty here to make some mittens. So maybe I'll write that up. Bonus pattern. What do you think? Do you think there is a need for plain mittens with the convertible flap? Or can people just figure it out from the mittens? I don't know. As a pattern designer, I find it quite hard to figure out the balance between, like, I think a plain convertible mitten pattern would be terribly useful. But on the other hand, can I sell a plain convertible mitten pattern? I do have to make a living, so I have to kind of pick and choose what I can spend my time on. And yeah, what do you think? Do you think that'll be a useful thing for you? for your loved ones. I think the convertible mittens would be a terribly good gift knit. And I don't really believe in things being too fancy to wear, but I can see, I've had a few people say that the Marilla mittens feel a little too fancy for wear, for like everyday practical wear. So maybe I will write up the the plain version of the convertible mittens and see what happens. Yeah, anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Why don't you join me on a little tour around my studio? And so I wanted to show you the building blocks drop, which is my upcoming pattern, just a sneak preview, because I just received this back from my sample knitter, Hannah Graham, who did such a wonderful job with it. I just had to share it. But it is a basic drop shoulder sleeve sweater with a myriad of customization options. It's currently in testing and will be out in January. It's got a really rounded scoopy neck with options for tubular cast on or not. My first sample, which I'll show next time, had just long tail cast on and bind off in pattern. This sample was knit with tubular finishing throughout. This one has 2 pockets. These are afterthought pockets. So it has this little split hem detail. I wanted it very dramatic, so it's a very dramatic back and front. So that's kind of the hem that's going on. Why have I designed the building block drop? The reason was actually because I was looking to knit a drop shoulder sweater with taper sleeves, and I couldn't find one with all the details I wanted. I really wanted there to be some pocket options, some split hem options if we needed to. I wanted there to have bust shaping for those who need it, short ropes that go across the bust for those who have more breast tissue, who need the extra fabric in the front, so it makes like a little wedge here. So neither of my samples have it because I didn't need them in the size that I knit because I sized up a little bit. But there will be another sample hopefully where I show it with a little bit of breast shaping, at least on. So the trouble with this is that I don't really need that much. I'm like borderline needing the bust shaping, but I'm okay without it. But I think in the future what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the padding system that came with my dress form and try to pad the dress form out to like a D or F shape, sewing cup size. And so I can show how bust darts work, because I'm really quite enamored with the bust darts and how they turned out. The testers who have completed their sweaters using bust darts all look amazing. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out and grateful for my colleague and friend Jen Peroncini, who did the consultation with me. She graded the shoulder shaping, the armhole shaping for the upper sizes and the bust shaping for me, and we worked together to make sure that the armhole shaping works out that the drop of the shoulder comes at the same spot for every size roughly, and doesn't end up like all the way in the elbow for the larger sizes, just because the folks in the larger sizes don't have proportional shoulders to their full body compared to the smaller sizes. So what happens is even as the body gets wider, the shoulders don't get that much wider. So what happens is that when people grade drop shoulder patterns, they end up just grading it like a rectangle. And people are not rectangles. They have shoulders, they have slopes. And what ends up happening is when you grade a rectangle that's just bigger and bigger and bigger compared to the shoulders, what happens is the edge of that rectangle where the shoulder drop is just ends up in the elbow. And that's not comfortable. And it creates a lot of excess pulling of the fabric in the underarms and the shoulders. And this pattern is kind of my effort to try to grade a pattern that does that. So I kind of worked out the shoulder measurements, and Jen helped me finesse the underarm, the crease frequency, and all of these things. And it was a really lovely experience getting to work with Jen, who's also very committed to fit focused designs. She's also a designer, so I'll link her below, check her out. But it was really lovely to work with Jen to make this design everything that it needs to be so that it fits wonderfully on everybody. So if you are someone who previously couldn't knit a drop shoulder pattern because the drop shoulder comes out all the way to the sleeves, this might be the pattern for you. The other thing about it is that you can size correctly for your shoulders, and then the bust darts will do the rest to help accommodate any breast tissue that you have. And that way, if you're busty, then you don't have to choose a size that's so oversized that the shoulders, again, end up in your elbows. So that's kind of the ethos, philosophy, etc. of this pattern. I just really wanted a plain, simple, basic that's easy to knit, easy to work, but had the features in it to create truly like the perfect throw it on and it fits effortlessly kind of pattern. So that's what I've been up to. I'm currently hard at work on the second sample of the cardigan version, which I'll sneak peek a little bit here. Just started it last night. So this is my Newton sample for the cardigan version of this pattern. It's gonna have a V-neck. It's gonna have all the same shoulder shaping, armhole shaping, and bust dart features. And on this one, I actually am planning on doing like a size 1, I think, bust dart to really show how the bust dart works. Or maybe I should get really dramatic and do the second size bust dart, which will take us all the way up to a teacup. The base pattern comfortably accommodates up to a 2-inch difference between your upper bust and your full bust. And then each cup size adds 1 more inch. So similar to bra cups, each cup size will add 1 inch. And yeah, I don't know if I should be real dramatic about it and really pad her out so you can see the difference. I've just sent the yarn off to my sample knitter for the V-neck cardigan version. So maybe I will have her knit up like a really busty version so that I could really show how it looks. Not on my body, obviously, because I'm not that well endowed, but on the dress form. Hopefully we can show how it works. I think that's everything I have to share today. I hope you are all remaining healthy this fall season. In my area, the flu and the RSV situation is getting pretty intense. So wherever you are, I hope that you remain healthy and find some joy in your making this week. I will talk to you next time.